touch my hair. Please don't touch it.
What do I do?
Would you please put my foot in this thing?
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of do a little bit of the intros and kickoff while we wait for others to join us so that we can stay on schedule. Welcome to today's Education Committee meeting of the Kentucky Alliance. This is a rescheduled meeting from earlier this week. We are also meeting as the Coalition for the People's Agenda today. And it is day 142 of demanding justice for Breonna and 18 days until the election. This is the agenda that I have put together. I was asked to call this meeting today by several people who have been wanting to keep this work moving forward, and they asked me to call the meeting. And we're going to start with some introductions. Just kind of go around the room with everybody who's on the call. And just for a minute, if you would, just say your name and the organizations that you are with. Can you guys hear me?
I'll just start to keep the ball rolling, because even though I'm a shy person, I will bite the bullet for the cause. I'm Yvonne Rivera. I'm a member of the Alliance, although I am a tiny, tiny, small fry. I'm one of the co-founders of JCPS Leads. I'm a member of JCTA. I teach Spanish in elementary school. And yes, those kids are just as cute as you think they are.
My name is Shemai Hightower. I'm a student at Southern High School. I'm a lawyer, and that's about it.
Hi, I'm Liv Bowler. I am a student representative and I go to DuPont Manual High School. This year I'm a senior and I am super excited to be part of this.
Sorry, you guys, I had my volume turned down, so I don't know if some of you already spoke and I couldn't hear you. I was having my own technical issues. Yvonne, can you call on whoever else has not introduced themselves?
Ira, the lovely and talented. He's very shy too. Oh shoot, I think Ira is frozen.
He's moving. He's probably muted.
Moving. Can you hear us, Ira? He's nodding, but we cannot hear you.
He
Huh.
did tell us. He did tell us that he has trouble with his audio sometimes, and I did send you a link in email for you to use your phone to dial in. I don't know if you've seen that yet, Ira. I sent that about 15 minutes ago. So check and see if you can get on that way. I see Chris Toby. Chris, have you introduced yourself yet?
No, yeah, this is Chris Toby. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm at the Y between pool breaks. Some of you all know. I mean, I know. I've been active in politics. I ran for state auditor. I'm really big onto accountability and transparency issues in general, and I think that's why Gay invited me to be along and try to get more involved in these issues. I was raised in the First Unitarian Church, so I have a long history of being supportive of these issues.
Greg, did you say hello yet?
John Hardy and Greg have not yet spoken to us.
I think I figured out how to turn on my mic. I'm John Hardy. I'm a member of the Alliance, and I'm a Louisville attorney.
Greg Titchener. I'm a JCPS ECE teacher and the Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice representative on the Kentucky Alliance Board.
Holly McHugh.
I am Holly McHugh, and if that ain't enough, too bad. I'm really appreciative that I get a chance to listen to you guys and learn, and that'll be the last you hear from me on this call.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Sadiqa.
Hi, I'm Sadiqa at the Louisville Urban League. Happy to be here to listen.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Kimberly just popped on. I'm going to put her on the spot. Kimberly, if you can hear us, can you introduce yourself? And I also just let someone else in, but it's just a number, so I can't tell who it is. Oh, that's Ike. 5528, that'd be Ike.
Yes. Yes, I'm here. Sorry it took so long.
That's okay, we hear you. You want to introduce yourself?
I finally had to just back up. I did it by Zoom and it kept jumping back and forth, so I finally just did it by the phone number.
Excellent. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. Let's see. My name is Ike Thacker. I'm on the board of Kentucky Alliance and have been involved with the Coalition for the People's Agenda since almost when it started in August of 2002. I guess I started in 2003, and I guess that's all that matters for right now. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome. Somebody else just joined, another number. 2171. Ira just joined on the line. Can you hear us now? Can we hear you, Ira? Two 2171. Do we know who 2171 is?
That's Ira. That's
Okay.
Ira Grouper.
He's on there twice. Okay, that makes sense. One is without video. Okay. All right. Oh, and my name is Gay Adelman. I am a board member of the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, also co-founder of Dear JCPS and Save Our Schools Kentucky, and parent of a graduate from the Academy at Shawnee in 2016 who recently just commissioned as a Marine pilot from the United States Naval Academy this past May. Um, Welcome, everybody. We've done the introductions. I wanted to just kick it off with a quick history of the Alliance and the People's Agenda. Just a recap, some of you have seen this piece of the presentation before, but for the people who are kind of just getting on board for the first time, the Kentucky Alliance was formed in 1974 by Ann Braden, Angela Davis, Bob Cunningham, and Susie Post to address systemic racism and injustice prevalent in our society. The Kentucky Alliance is one of the longest running grassroots organizations serving Jefferson County and Kentucky. Our volunteer-run organization operates out of the historical Carl Braden Memorial Center at 3208 West Broadway. Freedom is a constant struggle. Angela Davis. The next slide I have is the home of the People's Agenda. Ike, I know you sent some stuff today and I have not had a chance to look at it. Did you happen to send something that looked like this brochure?
No, what I sent was only the actual People's Agenda, which mostly was the way it was way back in 2002 and 2003, but we kind of like updated it some. Several of us got together in 2010 and 2011, so it included those changes, which were mostly just things to reflect issues that had come up since 2005 or so, when it originally became what I guess you would say is moribund or something. So no, it was just simply the agenda, which was the things we were calling on the Metro government to do, which did actually include a small amount about JCPS.
Okay, yes. So what the slide I have up right now is the brochure from 2002, I believe, when the Coalition from the People's Agenda first formed due to the merger of the city-county governments and the loss of voice that marginalized community members would be experiencing. And so led by Ann Braden and others who are on this call and still on the Alliance today, were instrumental in calling together a coalition that involved how many organizations, Ike, did you say, in 2002?
I thought it was 45, but when I looked up the old thing, it was actually 50.
And they came up with these 8, at the time it was 8 issues, and education being one of them. Education and youth empowerment was one of the 8 issues that fell under the umbrella of the Coalition for the People's Agenda. And as Ike mentioned, in 2010-11, there was some revisiting and some expansion of those issues. And then last year in 2019, Danita Wright led the revival of the Coalition for the People's Agenda at the same historical location, Quinn Chapel. And they added a 9th. I think that might be when they added a 9th, unless you're saying, Ike, that you guys had done that previously.
We actually added the 9th, which was quite short, but we added it in 2010, 2011 during that right. Reincarnation.
All right, and then in 19, we kept it moving, and then here we are in 2020. The Education Committee of the Alliance met about 8 or 9 weeks ago, I would guess, and we made a motion. We took back to the board a motion to expand the People's Agenda to include the JCPS leadership and policies and practices and budget, as in addition to the Metro government that was part of the original 2002. And so we've been meeting on a pretty regular basis to narrow down our demands and do the best we can to elevate those concerns to district leadership. And in concert with this tax increase that is on the ballot, we have demanded that the district work in good faith with grassroots organizations and provide a seat at the table for the voices of those who represent Black and Black allied voices and organizations. So that was passed by the Alliance board, and we've been working to refine those demands, and that's where we are today. We're to the point now where those demands have been presented to the district, and we've seen some evidence of good faith, some demonstration of good faith in several of those key areas. So we're going to talk about that today. And if we have enough people on the call who are members of the steering committee, so next I would like to do is identify who are the steering committee members that have signed on. These are people who have been, the way this list was developed is these are people who have been on these calls pretty relentlessly for the last several months off and on. We initially tried to start this as a 501c4 that was part of the Kentucky Alliance. The Alliance board was not comfortable with that. So Dear JCPS has filed for 501c4 status so that we can lobby. We can do certain things under 501c4 status that are allowed, such as endorsing candidates and endorsing issues. So actually being able to come out and say yes for JCPS. We don't want to put the Alliance's 501c3 status at risk, so we're being very careful and deliberate to keep this separate. And this committee is separate also from the Alliance at this time, although these are people who just simply said, the Alliance members who are on the call today and who are part of these prior calls are welcome to sign on to this, but because it was a little bit moving outside of the Alliance, it changed direction. And so we have come up with a steering committee. We wanted to create a committee that was a direct response to the steering committee that the district had come out with, because we felt that the district's steering committee was not representative of stakeholders, the parents and the taxpayers and the students. And so this coalition is deliberately a deliberate response to that. And so Latasha Harrison, who is not on the call today, but she's been on many of these calls. She's the president of the Louisville PTO and founder. Danita Wright also is not with us today, but was the interim chair for the Alliance last year, and she is the facilitator for the Coalition of West Louisville Neighborhood Associations. Me, I've already introduced myself. Rhonda Mathis, she's a former chairperson of the Kentucky Alliance. Many of you probably know her. She's very present at Injustice Square Park. Bob Cunningham, also one of the original founders of the Kentucky Alliance, has agreed to sign on and be part of this decision-making coalition. And Matt Taylor, who is, you guys may know him, he's a tennis coach and some other things around town, very involved, and he also runs the Incorporate West Louisville group. On the call, we have Olivia, the manual student that we introduced a moment ago, as well as Jemana Hightower. Yvonne Rivera is with us today. Heather Prophet is not with us. Chris Thieneman is not with us. Chris Toby is with us. And Leanne Yost said she was going to try to get on. So what we need to know is if we have a quorum of individuals, and also if, so let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. 5 of 13 is all we have. So we do not have a quorum at this time. So we won't be voting on any of the issues. We can, however, discuss what we've done, the progress that we've made so far, and get to the next steps. And then we're going to open it up to discussion. So I'm going to go back to the agenda and review that real quick because I do want to see how we're doing on time, and also make sure that we need to elect a chair. That is one of the things that the people that asked me to call today's meeting asked that we can get a chair for this committee named as well. That is another thing that we want to do today. And then if we want to add or remove council members to this committee that I showed you, there is a process for doing that. So if anyone is on this call, as I mentioned earlier, anyone who's on this call who wants to sign up to be part of the decision-making council and add your name to this list, this is the list of individuals that will be voting when we decide to vote in favor or against the tax increase. We want it to be as democratic as possible, and opportunities for everyone's voices and concerns to be heard. And I want to distinguish Organizations may have their own position on the tax increase, but the coalition is a separate entity that is more inclusive of many different voices and perspectives. And Dear JCPS has come out in support, for example, of this tax increase, but the coalition itself has not. So that is a distinction that each of our organizations may be doing at some point in the future. If the coalition decides to vote no, but Dear JCPS has voted yes, then as a spokesperson for Dear JCPS, I can explain to media or whomever else might contact me the distinction between those two. So that being said, I will go ahead and skip down to, well, let me finish reviewing the agenda, sorry. We've got some bylaws I'd like to review so that, and that's why I asked John to come on. John is an attorney and he's been consulting us with the 501c4 and 501c3 discussions and kind of guided us to where we are today with some of this. And also has some mock bylaws, sample bylaws that we can use for the formation of the council and how we move forward, how we move this work forward. So I want to share with you some of the bylaws language that we have been discussing and get people more comfortable with that. And then give updates on the status of our demands, EARN, earn the people's vote. And then at 4:30, if we have quorum, I would like to see if we can make a motion for moving this toward a vote, but if not, then we'll just table it for the next time that we have enough people on the call. I know Friday afternoon is a difficult time, and I also know that many people on this call have a 5 o'clock meeting they need to hop off for. So that is another reason why I'm kind of talking fast and moving through this quickly. So I do apologize for that. I don't think we're going to have a quorum, so we won't be spending the time at 4:30 for that motion most likely. And then the discussion, if we have any discussion on the motion, that's where that would go, and then the vote. And then if we skip that, then we can just have the informal discussion at the end, which you can see if our meeting starts to run long. I tried to put some time frames on here so that we could keep the meeting moving and respect everyone's time. So with that being said, I'm going to flip to the bylaws real quick and just read through them, and then we'll have a quick discussion and talk about the committee members if anyone here is interested in joining after they understand what the bylaws are. I'm sure this would be one of your questions before you decide if you wanted to sign your name on to the committee. So the bylaws that we've discussed so far, a quorum is reached when we have more than 50% of the decision-making council membership in attendance. Additional council members may be nominated and approved upon 2/3 vote from the existing council members. In order to maintain an odd number, the council members may be added in increments of 2 until a maximum of up to 19 council members has been met. Council members may be removed or replaced upon a 2/3 vote as well. In order to maintain the desired racial makeup, which is, by the way, I don't think I mentioned this part, majority Black, and no more than half of the council members being white or white presenting at any given time. So when we add people, we would like to do so in pairs so that the number stays odd and that we maintain the desired racial makeup. So endorsements and lobbying regarding the tax increase and school board candidates will be conducted under Dear JCPS, a 501c4, as I explained earlier. And then we are also working with a federal PAC. It's actually not technically a PAC. It's called an unauthorized campaign committee, but it works much like a federal PAC. And that is how we are doing the state and federal endorsements. And that includes a card I will show you that has local, state, and national, including Ditch Mitch messaging and that kind of thing on it. And then that's an option if we want to extend our campaign beyond the local school board and yes, for JCPS or I should just say tax increase issues. The council will continue to demand accountability and transparency from district leaders after the ballot measure passes or fails. And we will, once we get our committee put together and everything approved, then we will have 3 executive officers. Our bylaws will call for 3 executive officers. And we can add more, obviously, add vice presidents, those types of things. Much like you guys have been members of PTAs In order to get started, we have to have a formation document the first time, and we can always create standing rules and various other formats to keep things moving and make it democratic and suitable for everyone in attendance. So after having read those bylaws, I'd like to just pause for a minute and see, does anyone have any comments or suggestions or concerns?
I have one.
Joe?
This is just a technical thing, but having seen a number of these before, it's not required, but it's more common in organizations to also have a vice president. And part of that is simply so it's clear to everybody if the president is unavailable at some point for some reason, that there's somebody typically that steps into their position, chairs a meeting, or whatever functions the president normally takes care of, especially if the president's out of town or just unavailable or ill. Secretary and treasurer, they're often separate, but sometimes they're combined. I just wanted to suggest that a vice president might be something good to designate.
All right, let's do it that way so that we don't overextend ourselves. Trying to find 4 people that are willing to do a task is harder than trying to find 3, although I realize somebody may say, I don't want secretary and treasurer. And if so, then we'll split it up. But let's keep it to 3, but just reframe the titles, unless anybody has any other thoughts. Anyone else? You seem like agreeable bylaws. That everybody that's on the current committee, let's hear from everybody who's currently agreed to serve. Do you have any concerns about what you read in the bylaws? I'm gonna switch to that. So do we want to open it up for more members? Is anyone on this call interested in serving on this list? And being available to speak to press, being available to be out in at press conferences and within your own organizations explaining the positions of the work that we're doing.
I would like to suggest an additional member, and that would be Matt Kaufman. Now, he has the same limitations that I do. He is not available between 9 and 4 p.m. because we're at our day job. But if that is not disqualifying, then I think, he's working with Justice 502, and he's just amazing. So
He is.
I will.
I invited him to this call, and he did indicate that he was slammed. So I think that's a good suggestion, and we can certainly reach out to him. I don't think. I think we should give him.
He's especially slammed right now. He's got a baby on the way.
Yes.
So, and his life will be hell a year after that. Actually, your life is hell forevermore. Why? Who am I trying to fool? I'll shut up now.
Anyone else? All right. I know.
Is the council is what we're referring to as the council? I must have missed something. Is what we're referring to as the council? Is that separate from both Dear JCPS and the coalition?
It is. Yes. It is the decision. It's an ad hoc committee. DECISION making council. It's an ad hoc committee because we needed a way to uh, identify people that we were going to say, okay, yes, these are those who will vote. These are the ones who have been kept abreast and
Okay, got it.
and need to be part of a council that says yes or no. And it's represented
Okay.
throughout the community that are parts of many different organizations in the community. And we would like this list to grow. Are you interested in joining on, Ike?
Golly, the council, and it is a council that is representing the Coalition for the People's Agenda and Dear JCPS, or just exactly what is it representing? I'm interested, but I want to make sure that I'm not getting myself into something I'm not qualified for.
The specific purpose of our existence is to determine if we come out with a yes or a no. And
On the tax increase.
on the tax increase.
Okay. And only that, not necessarily whether it includes our specific demand, which are certainly very good, but just trying to make a clarification.
Yes, I think that it is our job as council people to ensure that the demands have been met in good faith or are being met in good faith according to the demand document that we presented and the conversations that we've had with Dr. Polio. This committee decides if we feel that those demands have been met. So that is part of our job description, is knowing that knowing the intent of the demands and the conversations that have taken place thus far, and the acts of good faith that we've seen from the district. And I'm going to summarize those next on this call. My opinion was we didn't necessarily need to have a big discussion about whether or not our demands have been met until we're really ready to vote. And so I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to discuss their perceptions of these demands and how they think the district has done in meeting them. And then we would call for a vote, and we would either say yes or we would say not yet. There's no benefit to coming out strong no unless we just decide we're going to get out and canvass against it. And if we decide that's what we want to do, then that would be another discussion that we would have. But if the district is working in good faith, but we don't have a quorum, or we're still not feeling like they've done enough, then we would vote no, and we would tell them we're still a no. And then they're not going to have us out there helping them with canvassing and stuff. And so Dear JCPS has come out as a yes. So I'll be out there canvassing in support, because we've already recognized that there's a void in marketing, and there were no vote yes yard signs being distributed. They just say support our schools, and there's vote no yard signs being distributed by the Tea Party. So recognizing that void, we made our own vote yes signs. I paid out of our grant money to print 50 of them, and I've given away about 20 so far. I've tried to sell some to try to recoup some of our grant money so that we can keep the money going. But unfortunately, I've only sold one.
Okay.
And the district has been passive aggressive towards us up until a couple of days ago. So that's part of the update I want to give, is some of the change in attitudes that we've seen from the district. And when we have our conversation about how everybody feels, I would include that in my conversation and my recommendation. So.
In that case, to get back to the original question for me, which is not the important question, I think I'm very interested, but I don't think I'm yet qualified. I think maybe my voting whether to include me or not should come at a later date.
Okay. And that is fair. I appreciate that. And there are links to, in fact, I'll click over to that real quick. Can you guys, when I change screens, you can still see what my new screen is. Right now you see the blue card. You see the blue card, or does it still show this PowerPoint? You can see my screen, right?
Me?
Everybody.
No.
Yes.
No, I cannot. I'm only on audio.
Okay.
I finally had to just dial in because of phone problems or Zoom problems.
So this is one of the websites that I'm going to show you that we've put together so far. There's a link right here on this page called Thus Far. And for those who are still kind of trying to figure out what's going on and what they've missed, we've uploaded all of the most recent meetings to this page. And I'm having some technical difficulties with it right now, but when I actually go into edit, you can see the videos. So it shows YouTube videos of the meetings, so you can see who said what and who made promises to whom and who made clarifications to those requests and what doctor said he could and couldn't do, like Dr. Polio said, and couldn't do. All of that is included in these meetings. We've had special guests, senators and House representatives and board members come on and talk about the resolution and how we can get something like that passed, which is the R in earn the people's vote. So Ike, this might be a really good link to send to you so that you can, and anyone on this call who maybe feels like they're missing some of the important pieces.
Yes, definitely that includes me.
Not a problem. And then I think for bylaws, I'm going to switch back to the bylaws screen real quick. Because of technology and the speed with which decisions must be made, I think I'd like to add another thing in the bylaws that says that we can vote through email. You guys agree with that idea? Because time is of the essence.
I agree with it. My vote is yes. This is I.
On the tax increase?
No, on the adding to the bylaws.
All right. So if anyone else is interested in chiming in on any of the things we've discussed so far, I'll pause for another minute or two. Go back up to the agenda. So we talked about a chair. I think we still need to elect a chair so that when we call for votes and motions and things like that, there's someone in position to do that. Does anyone want to be chair?
I hear a volunteer.
Puppy.
So many people talking at the same time. It's hard to hear.
Really?
So I have had several people ask me if I would chair, and that's why they asked me to also call the meeting today. I'm willing to serve as chair, but I don't want to assume that you guys want me to unless you want me to. So.
Well, I personally think Gay should be chair, yes. And this is like, you can't see me, so I'll kind of identify myself. But I think Gay should be chair.
What does a chair do?
So the chair would run the meetings, make the agenda, call for time on the discussions, make sure that all the officers are doing their due diligence and their duties in between meetings, and just keep the work moving forward.
I agree. I feel like you should be chair.
Me too.
I'm all in.
All right. Any objections? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. Do we vote? I don't know how this works. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? I didn't have to mute anyone. That's good. That's good. All right. So that being said, I think we've moved on to where we're going to talk about the status updates. And Chris just texted me. Did he hop off? I think he did. I wanted him to hear about the updates, but I'll follow up with him. Let's look at that screen now. So this is the little postcard that I made that has been keeping kind of a running track of the EARN, Earn the People's Votes. E is the evaluation of the current student assignment plan. For a month, they played games with us and pretended like one had already been done, and we had to do 2 different open records requests and put them on the spot in a few different ways, including having a board member ask, which is when the first lie was told. Okay, I won't say lie because he gave me a really good apology. He did apologize about a month into it that said, I'm so sorry, I completely misunderstood. We'll do one, and they did it October 7th at, they called a special meeting and did a REAP at the task force committee meeting. So we're giving them a yellow in that category because our demand was not only the REAP, but also present it to the public. And that part hasn't happened yet, but I followed up with Renee Murphy, the communications chair for the district, and we had a good meeting on Wednesday. And I said, you know, I really feel like your strategy, your campaign strategy of laying low and hoping people don't hear about this is a bad one. And we'd really like an opportunity to get a meeting so that we can maybe talk some strategy and, you know, this vote yes idea and this other stuff. And that night, Renee called and put the communications person on a Zoom with me, and we had a good 20-minute call, and she sounded receptive to having us participate in the process going forward these last 2 weeks, which is still better than nothing. And if we can get a couple more meetings, I sent an email summarizing some of the things that grassroots groups, communication channels and opportunities to work together, and also, you know, incorporating our demands, because getting them to say in their marketing, yes, we're going to do these things, is part of our demands. That's part of the accountability. That's part of getting them on record so we have leverage to use later in the game. So, you know, as long as they're willing to work with us on some of this language and some of this messaging and come to the meetings and speak to impacted communities and say, yes, this is how we're going to spend the money, then that's how everyone wins. So we still want them to present the findings of the REAP to the public. But working in good faith is what we asked of them, because sometimes things can't happen by a certain deadline because of how big the district is and how many decision makers, like the entire board, has to be on board with things. And you know, you have to wait for the windows of opportunity to open, when the next meeting is, that kind of thing. So to me, that's a yellow. The anti-racist budget. In fact, when Sadiqa was on the call, I wanted to give her a shout out because she was instrumental in helping us get a green light here. There was a time when the district was meeting to go over their budget and pass their budget, and we had some specific demands for the budget. We wanted them to divest from things that were harmful and reactionary and punitive, and invest in proactive, front-end, culturally competent curriculum and counselors and those types of things. And Sadiqa and Michelle Penix and I got on a call for about an hour and a half late one night, after it was 10 to 11:30 on a weeknight, where we worked through some specific language that we said, if Dr. Polio could mention that this is how he would spend these resources, then we would recognize that as a wink and a nod. Those were the words that I used. I said, we need a wink and a nod. And Sadiqa was like, is that enough to get a yes? And I said, that's enough to get a maybe. You know, we're still negotiating and we still have 3 other demands, but it's a great start. I said, it's a great start. So we gave them this green because they They came through. Word for word, Dr. Polio included the 3 things that Michelle Penix sent to him that would be an indication that they were listening to us when it came to the budgetary concerns. So R, the resolution. We want a resolution that is in favor, that supports the movement for Black Lives. Black Lives Matter at School has some really great templates and samples of other districts across the country that have already done this type of thing. This is not outside of the box, although we still need to be at the front of it. We want to be at the front of it, and we are in a position to where we should be doing these types of things, but a resolution needs to come from a board member. We've had both Corey Shull and Joe Marshall on our calls. I think Corey's words were something like, this is way past due. So it's just a matter of getting the attention of the board members so that we can get a draft written and circulate it within our coalition and within our community to make sure that it covers the things that we want it to cover. And we don't want to rush necessarily, but it does need to be sponsored by board members. So Lisa Wilner, who is a state rep, was also on the call that Corey Shull was. Lisa held Corey's seat before Corey was elected in that board seat. So there's some great synergy there. And Lisa Wilner is the one who passed or who introduced the resolution for Safe Haven resolution is what it was called. And that was right after Trump got elected when our immigrant students were being terrorized. So a precedent has been set by our district, and the right people have been coming to our calls that can make this kind of thing happen. But I will tell you that the board makeup right now, mayor, is tenuous. We need four board members to vote in favor. And right now we've really only seen favorable response from 2 of them, Joe and Corey. So there are 2 more seats that are open right now. Jody Hurt is running for Chris Kolb's seat in District 2, and Sarah McIntosh is running to replace Chris Brady in District 7. If both of them happen to get elected, they have committed to supporting this agenda. So if we could get a shift in board makeup, we would have the 4 votes that we need. So that's why canvassing may make sense. That's why getting out and talking to people about voting in favor of these candidates and this particular issue may be how we get to what we need to get. This may not be over just because the tax increase passes or fails. This is interactive work, right? It's not one and done and then we move on. It's as Angela Davis said, freedom is a constant struggle. But that is something that could happen down the road and maybe outside of the district's control at this time. So it might not be something that impacts us as a no. It would just be pulled from it for future. And then no wholesale return to in-person school until it's safe. Well, as you see from the announcements that just came out yesterday, Dr. Polio is completely committed to making sure that when it comes to COVID, that we won't be returning to in-person school until it's safe. And we have been raising his awareness, and he is responding in some favorable ways. We've been raising his awareness of other factors that make it unsafe for students to return to school, including especially our Black students, including police in schools, including culturally incompetent curriculum, including teachers that exhibit cultural bias. These are things that we need more intermediary processes in place, because what we have seen is several things. We've seen that the district union is not on our side when it comes to holding teachers accountable for culturally incompetent behaviors and dangerous behaviors. And what we've also seen is there's no middle ground. So like if a teacher or an educator exhibits some kind of culturally inappropriate behavior or dangerous behavior, it's attempted to be addressed within the school climate. If the school climate is toxic, or they don't have a supportive principal or a supportive JCTA representative, then it turns into grievances against the teacher who maybe raised the concern. It turns into suits and counter grievances and counter suits, and doubling down on the racist behavior instead of nipping it in the bud when it's still coachable and retrainable. So we've created a group called Dear JCPS Teachable Moments that has been posting screenshots as a way to try to encourage better behavior by those who violate, by those who commit those types of behaviors, I guess. And then other processes for complaint. And so on one of our calls with Dr. Polio, that I think is in some of those videos, we explained to him that there's really nothing in between, and that we were going to try to use this teachable moments process. And he asked us to notify the district investigator when we had our next situation, which we did. And we followed it all the way through until it hit a brick wall. And that was that basically they had followed protocol. And unfortunately, the racist teacher that sent the threatening text message that we shared on Dear JCPS Teachable Moments as our very first post has been moved to a different elementary school, but she's still teaching kindergarten and still a threat and a danger to Black students. So one of the things that came out of the last board meeting was that they are bringing back the ombudsman position, which I think is a response to some of the concerns that we've raised. And as long as it's Dr. Polio, I'm sure everything will be fine. But when it was Dr. Hargens, we had an ombudsman position, that was an opportunity for them to get ahead of disasters and sweep them under the rug and lie on and manipulate and discredit the victims and those types of things. So we don't want that to happen again. So what we have suggested is that the ombudsman report to the board. I think that was Danita Wright's idea. The ombudsman report to the elected board instead of to the superintendent. So, you know, if Dr. Polio brings that back and he shows us that he's willing to put that outside of his own purview, then, you know, that might be a way that we know we have a way in for continuing to hold the district accountable for these types of problems. And then I just want to jump back up to the resolution again, because the language that we want to make sure that it includes, in addition to being supportive of the movement for Black lives and at a local level, including language that points out that we acknowledge the harms that have been done by the current student assignment plan, for example, and the disproportionate number of suspensions and achievement gap and special needs and all the ways that the district has fallen short need to be spelled out in this resolution. And then that's the first half of it. The resolutions usually read whereas this, whereas this, whereas this, and it cites several examples of why the resolution is necessary, and then ends with be it resolved or resolved, and then these are the things we're going to commit to do about it. So one of the things that we want this resolution to include is also a seat at the table for the coalition. So the coalition, just like it has done at the metro government level, is going to be revamping and doing as we see the police accountability measures and the civilian review that took place of the police back when the coalition was first formed. They had a civilian review of police. And so that's coming back into play. And we want essentially a civilian review of JCPS by that ombudsman process. So it's kind of, there's a lot of parallels, I guess is what I'm getting at. And we want to make sure that the district creates an intentional seat at the table for Black voices and Black and Black allied organizations and leaders. So I'm going to stop talking for a second and see if you guys have any questions about any of those updates that I just gave you. How are we doing on time? Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I know some of you are going to need to jump off soon. So I'm going to just keep going. And if at this point, if you have something you want to say, please interrupt me, or you can type stack in the chat. I'm not real good at always watching the stack, so I could use a helper. This last slide is just the discussion that I said we could stick around for. We've pretty much covered the things I wanted to cover in the meeting other than the bylaws and the vote, but we don't have a quorum. So that won't be happening today. but there is a Kentucky Alliance press conference every Sunday. So if we can come to a yes vote between now and Sunday, we might ask that people be present at that press conference to speak about why they voted yes or no. We want to hear, like, just because as a coalition we come out with a yes or a no, in particular a yes, because that's when we would actually make an announcement, is when we get to the yes. But if we get to a yes, majority yes, but there's still several on the call that vote no, that is completely fine. And what we want to do is make sure that those voices are amplified. Those are the voices that, even though we may be a yes for the tax increase, it's still a yes, but we're going to hold you accountable. Yes, right? So yes, but we still need to see these things. Yes, but Black Lives Matter has been on our calls and they want police-free schools and we don't have police-free schools. So yes, but we need to keep working towards these things. Yes, but the PTA has been on our calls and they want to see the presentation of the REAP to the public. They wanted a live REAP, which I think the district thinks by holding a committee meeting and putting it on Zoom, that is a live REAP, but it's really not part of a community presentation. And I know several of us have wanted this to be presented to the community, and realtors and individual school PTAs could be inviting us to come and speak to them and show them the student assignment maps and the disproportionalities that are caused by the unjust student assignment plan, the racist student assignment plan. Dr. Polio has admitted that this student assignment plan is structurally racist. And so if we know that our proposed changes to student assignment really only go so far, if they only rearrange the deck chairs on a sinking ship without actually doing anything about what are we doing for this to plug the holes in the sinking ship, and reverse. We need a conversation around the words flip the script. That is what I would like to see the district communications department come out with, is something that tells the community we are going to flip the script on this student assignment plan. We want to make it so that the schools in the West End are so attractive that families are willing to drive and travel, and put ourselves in the position, those who live outside of the West End, put ourselves in the position of being the ones to travel and come to school in the middle of the day for a meeting, or to pick a sick student up, or drive somebody who misses the bus. Not put all of that burden on our families in the West End. And in fact, we want to remove that burden from them and make sure our schools stay within plus or minus 15% of the district demographics, so that we still strive for integrated schools, but we flip the script. So that is language that if we see that coming out of the district, we'll know we've made progress. Just getting a gauge on the folks who are on this call, when do you think, well, in fact, let me do it this way. I want to go ahead and go around the room and see where everybody stands, especially now that I have given an update. Would you vote in favor? If we had a quorum today, would you vote in favor or against the tax increase? And I'll have to go ahead and read Chris Toby's text message to me, since he's no longer on the call. And I see Greg unmuted, so I didn't mean to cut you off, Greg. You can go next if you like.
No, I'm multitasking, Gay, and I'm still finishing my homework for school here. So I like the people's agenda. I don't necessarily like the idea of tying it to the school tax hike, and I'm still working my way through that, and so I'll be in touch. That's where I'm at.
So I'd like to address that. I hear you. At one point when we were pulling this work out from the Alliance because we needed to keep it moving, but we weren't getting the 501c4 protection that we needed, I talked to Tia and I said, we're going to call this the Earn the People's Vote Coalition instead of the Coalition for the People's Agenda, because we don't want to co-opt the name or the work or the historical significance of the Coalition for the People's Agenda. And her instruction to me was, keep calling it the People's Agenda, keep doing the work. So if we decide as a team that we want to call it something else, we certainly can. What's important is that the work keeps moving forward. For a while, I was very specific about calling it Earn the People's Vote. But then after talking to Tia, I went back to calling it the People's Agenda. And I do think that the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, I mean, by definition, the political piece of it warrants us getting involved in lobbying and getting involved in taking a position on measures. So I think it still fits. I think we need to be intentional about the board members as well, because not only did I mention the two that would support the resolution if they got elected, but one of the candidates that is running against the Sarah McIntosh has come out and said some racist things and has come out and said some anti-teacher things and has aligned herself with ALEC and the Tea Party and those who we have been successful at removing when we knew they were predatory. And we need to be very careful. Like, this work is too important to just kind of let them back in because we didn't pay attention or we didn't take a strong enough stance. So it's more important that we do the work and that we take the position than it is that we call ourselves whatever we call ourselves. So I think that
I am.
vote on.
I am with the person. I'm not sure who that was, because this is Ike and I'm not seeing people. But I too am very much in favor of the Coalition for the People's Agenda. That kind of goes without saying with how I introduce myself. And I think it definitely should, oh my goodness, should include JCPS, but it should not be limited to that. There were, originally 8 issue areas that we addressed, and JCPS was essentially one of them. I'm hoping that other committees of the Coalition for the People's Agenda than this one, the Education Committee, will soon start meeting. Perhaps even one for each of the 8 or 9, depending on whether you want to do one for the 9th issue area. However, I don't think that means we can't say we are taking this position as the Education Committee of the Coalition for the People's Agenda. I'm not sure I would be in favor of, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever to say that the Coalition for the People's Agenda supports this. But I do think, I hope, I should say, that we can soon start having other committees meet as well as the Education Committee.
So you bring up a really good point, Ike, and if Danita were on the call, as she has pointed out on a couple of other calls, some of our committees have started meeting. You would consider she would consider the work that's being done at Injustice Square Park on a daily basis as the human and civil rights.
Oh, good.
And so
as you know, I was not on the board for a brief time, and I missed out on a lot of that.
Well, and and they're just doing the work too. Like, they're not necessarily coming back and getting us to vote on every little decision they make or what have you, but they're meeting and they're feeding people and they're in tune with the daily flow of the demands for justice that are being made and whether or not we're making traction and where to move that work next. And so, that is happening.
Oh, yes.
And so I think one could argue that maybe 2 or 3 of these committees have dusted themselves off and are back at work. And the Education Committee is one of those. And the only reason we're going so fast and furious is because of this tax measure and the student assignment plan. And as I mentioned to you when I texted you a couple of days ago, that chat group that I added you to is called Student Assignment because that's what was first on the agenda when we first got going. That was our earliest date.
Yes.
And but they've moved the assignment. That was supposed to be August 17th, but they've moved it now until probably after the first of the year. Dr. Polio is acting like it could still happen sooner, but he doesn't have the support and he knows it. So that's really just a
right. So I understand we have deadlines that the other committees don't, and fully agreed on that. Maybe not quite as fully agreed that the others can be considered committees of the coalition, but if they, and I simply don't know whether they were constituted as such when they started or not. I wasn't on the board, and I haven't gone back and looked at the old notes or anything. So
I went back to this graphic because I don't remember who helped me with the wording on this in particular. I think it was Tyra. We put it here, the Coalition for the People's Agenda Education Committee. And so it's really the same, you know, we were meeting as the Education Committee for the Kentucky Alliance, but the Kentucky Alliance can't come out and say, vote yes or vote no, because they're a 501c3. So if we
yeah,
call
right.
coalition instead of the alliance, then that keeps us under a separate, looser body, and then each of us would do whatever we can, what we're allowed to do as our own. Like Dear JCPS is allowed to do some things because we have a 501c4 now. So each of us would have to make our own calls as to what hat we're wearing and how we identify ourselves when we speak publicly or make statements to the press or what have you. So that's just you know, a coalition is really just a loose group of people coming together. And then usually when you do coalition building, one organization serves as the lead. And again, as the chair and as an organization that now has my 501c4, that is something that I have positioned myself to be able to do because I saw the need. I saw the need to continue to be able to speak publicly, to make signs that say yes, to make sure I'm following campaign finance laws, which I am. I have to put paid for by, and whichever entity is paying for it on all of the things that we spend any money on. And I get everything approved through the federal unauthorized campaign committee when we do anything outside of the local candidates. And it really all does tie to the big election. So I think we want to be in a position to where we can talk about up and down the ballot in addition to the local races. And so Dear JCPS is
Exactly, and
so,
Dear JCPS can do that now, right?
yes, and as individuals, we all can. You know, we just have to make sure.
Yes.
Or if you're a 501c3, you still can. You just have to do it a little bit more creatively. The League of Women Voters out in favor of the tax increase, and they're a 501c3, right? Is it their C3, Yvonne, that has come out in favor? And they just use very careful language. So we can.
I think the League of Women Voters has a 501c4 attached to it, but I'm not certain of that.
The league had a C4 and a C5. Excuse me, a C4 and a C3. C5s are unions, my mistake. And the national had also had one, and they merged theirs and then advised and recommended that the state and local leagues do the same, because somebody somewhere was able to calculate that we were people that were able to calculate how much, it's not so much how much of your time, but how much of your spending goes to lobbying. And so when they looked at reimbursing people for mileage and whatever, they were under the 20%, even on the national level, where there's plenty of paid people. And on the state and local, where we have a 20-hour-a-week secretary, that's it. So they now do a C3. So they can, and the everything I'm telling you, John knows better than I do. Everything I can tell you can change next March.
Yeah.
But
so did the local merge as the national?
They merged.
Advised?
They had separate bank accounts, which you have to have, separate bylaws and what have you, and they ended up merging it. And for a time, they kept both going. But I want to say everything was merged by April or May. No,
Okay.
earlier, because it was before COVID.
Okay.
So for those who have a 501c3, the answer is there are ways to do this in creative fashion. And so each of you,
On issues, you can't go crazy on candidates.
right.
I think John will back me up on that one.
So yeah, I think with candidates though, I think we've been successful at saying we support X and this candidate supports X. And you can do that. You just can't say we endorse this candidate.
You can do it with a C3. Right to Life pioneered that. They have their voter guides. People know what they want. And they look down and see who got the highest percent.
Right. And,
Everybody does it now, but I think Right to Life pioneered that.
and what we're trying to do is play by the same rules. If we want to win this battle, we've got to have the same tools and we've got to come with the same abilities. And so that's all I've been trying to do is make sure that we have the ability to
Oh, totally agreed.
Yeah.
I was just trying to determine who was and who wasn't a C4. That was all.
Yeah. And this all comes to fundraising too, because we have to pay for these materials that we're trying to print. And if people like what we're doing and they want to say, here, I want to donate, we have to have a legal way for them to do that. And we have to follow reporting rules. And we have to make sure we're not coordinating with candidates. So anyone on this call, if you're working directly with a candidate, we cannot coordinate with them. We can't go back to them and say, we're going to do a mailer for you and it's going to say this and that. And they can't have an opportunity to say, oh, can you use this picture of me instead or anything like that. We have to stay completely in a separate silo from candidates. So that's called campaign coordination. And so just be aware of that as well. And the reason for that is because of campaign contribution limits. They're limited to how much they can get. We are not. We can spend and buy and people can donate as much as they want, and it's dark. You don't have to actually report who gave us the money. So maybe George Soros will finally come around. I don't know.
Let's hope.
Waiting.
And I'm going to chime in on that. The other side, and you know who I'm talking about, break these rules all the time. There's a story today in the New York Times on all kinds of illegal shenanigans.
They can afford to fight it and drag it out and wait until after the election before they're found guilty. Yes.
But you know, there's one law for the powerful and another one for the not so powerful. You know that I'm just speaking facts. You know that the people who had the temerity to sit down on Daniel Cameron's lawn were charged with a felony.
Yeah.
But the
grandmother
policemen who
knitting
shot
on his
Brianna were charged with, what was it? Oh yeah, nothing. So, you know, it may be wrong, but it is a fact that there will be a different standard for us than there would be for the Republican Party.
Exactly. We gotta watch ourselves. Alec, as you all probably know much more about Alec than me, but Alec for years operated as a charity, which is mind-boggling.
So I think we hit a little bit of a snag here, so I want to make sure we go back and cover this. The language that I used on this meme or graphic or whatever is the Coalition for the People's Agenda Education Committee. Greg indicated he wasn't sure if he was comfortable with that name. You may have said the same thing. So is this?
Yeah, I thought that was Greg. I hadn't heard him be announced, but yes, I'm with Greg on that one. Except that my concern is only that the coalition, you know, the Coalition for the People's Agenda be broader than just the Education Committee, and I think it already is. I think most of the stuff that would have indicated that to me happened while I was off the board. But I do agree with what Greg said. And I thought I recognized his voice, but I hadn't heard him be announced. So
Yeah, that was Greg. So, but by adding education committee, does that make it more clear that it's just one of 9 legs? And does that address your concern, or is there still a different concern just about using people's agenda in general?
no, that's fine. If we want to say, I don't think I have a problem with even saying the Coalition for the People's Agenda endorses it. Well, no, I think we should limit it to the Education Committee. And the answer to your question is yes, that addresses my concern. I don't know. I can't speak for Greg.
Greg, are you still on?
I think he said he had to leave.
Greg is still
Work
on.
meeting, and I'm not doing a very good job of multitasking. So the question is, the People's Agenda Education Committee. I'm still where I was earlier, and I don't know if I can give you a good answer on this. I do like the People's Agenda.
And
I must
to say that I like it is, Greg, go ahead, please. Sorry.
I teach in public schools, so I know how badly we need funds, and I'm struggling with not getting those funds, undercutting public education, which I think is the systemic solution in education. If you look at charters, if you look at vouchers, I mean, there's a certain percentage of kids that might get a better education, but it's not a systemic solution. So undercutting public education, I have a tough problem. I mean, I have a problem with, and I struggle with that. So,
So by serving on this decision-making committee, you could be another one of those yes votes and help us make sure this is a yes.
Well, yeah,
I'm caught in data logs right now. So can I follow up with you this week?
Yes.
Okay.
I also think that, to me, it's what do we need to do to make this a yes? Like, that's been my goal all along. What do we need to do to make this a yes? And as you know, at the Alliance, we haven't been able to get a yes out of the board. Although I don't know if we've had enough. Did you see the summary count? I don't know if that's enough or not. I don't know what quorum is.
I think it ended up, last time I saw it, it was 8-1. I think it was 8-1.
You're on the board.
Sorry.
How many are on the board? How many would we need to be?
How many are on there right now? I'm trying to think. I think that no, that was all that responded to Gay's motion on email. I believe that the number on the board right now is I think it was something from the past. I just don't know. But I believe I think the number on the board is 24 at the moment.
But we don't have enough for the Alliance to come out in favor yet either, Greg. So these are our challenges. Like you and me and Tyra.
I know. Yeah, we don't have a quorum. We have a 88% vote or whatever, but it's not of a quorum.
Right. So I feel you. I hear you. What do we need to do to get it over the edge? This is the work.
We need to get people to vote. I mean, they don't respond to emails. But I think we should have a yes vote. My vote is already yes. So I'm not sure. For me, we don't need to do anything to get a yes vote. My vote is yes on the tax increase, period.
So,
but as far as I know, we haven't taken the vote yet.
Yeah, that's the confusion of this. I think I mean, it's like I am in the same boat, but this is not what this proposal's necessarily suggesting. They're saying yes only if all these are met, right, Gay?
no, as soon as we come out and say yes, we say we trust the district to continue to work with us. That's all we're really saying. Is the district working with us or aren't they? Are they going to do what they say they're going to do? Or do we think that it's just going to be more of this all talk and no action that they've done historically? And up until 2 weeks ago, I would have said no, because Dr. Polio did not respond to any of our calls or messages. And then suddenly now he's been on 3 calls and And he's introduced us to, or Renee's introduced us to their marketing firm, and she's going to be coming on our call maybe tonight at 5:30. So we'll see if she comes on. In fact, if you guys stick around, you might get to meet her. So we can get a
No.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Well, I think if you have another call at 5:30, I think we should take the vote now and see if we have a yes or not.
Well, it won't matter because we don't have a quorum of the
We
committee.
don't have a quorum. Right now, it's just a discussion.
We don't have a quorum of the council, right? You're talking about.
Right, right. I mean, I want it to be credible. I want it to be, if the 5 of us or 6 of us, I guess there's 7 of us, if we come out tomorrow and say, we voted yes, people will be like, you guys got your friends together and it wasn't transparent at all.
Well,
Yeah.
time is short. What if we let Gay, who's now the chair, put a question out to vote? I think we decided we can vote by email, and let's see if we can get an email vote by Sunday in favor.
I think first what we have to do is get some bylaws passed, and I can send those around by email, and then the email of the bylaws will say that we can vote by email, and then I'll do a separate vote that way. So I would like to go ahead, and what I really had hoped was that everybody got a chance to hear everybody's reasoning before they voted. I know that one of the students on the call had indicated that they would be a no. I don't know if after hearing this conversation, they might have changed their mind. I know Chris Toby texted me just now and said, I already voted no on the tax increase based on transparency and accountability, and I completely understand why he feels that way. He has a special needs child who has been given the shift, is that the right word? The shaft, when it comes to the services that she is entitled to. So, you know, he's got a good reason to vote no, but we've got a 13-person committee, and so we would only need 7 yeses unless we add more people to the committee. And, you know, Greg and Kimberly might be considering joining. Tyra has indicated that she might be considering joining. So we want to leave that opportunity open as well. And you guys can let me know if you want to be counted as the vote and speak publicly about your rationale. And if you vote no, that's completely fine. We want to continue to elevate the concerns as to why it's a no, because even if they get the tax increase, it doesn't mean we're going to stop advocating for these things. We just need to stand and get as much traction as we can before November 3rd and hold them accountable. Make them say it out loud and then hold them accountable to it after the vote. So
can we set
No, you go ahead, Ike, please.
I was just gonna say, I think Gay has another call in like 4 minutes. Can we set our next meeting?
No, she's actually going to call in here if she does. I texted her and invited her.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you had a separate call. My bad. My mistake.
And what's really great about that is if she actually does, even if she doesn't come on, I don't want to indicate that that's a sign that she's not working with us. She said she had another call and she would try to join, and I want to give her every benefit.
Yes, gotcha. Yeah.
But if she does come on and we're able to brainstorm and talk about some things such as the marketing that we need to be doing. We need to get volunteers to polls. We need to have people handing out literature at these polls outside of the safe distance every day. We have 4 polling locations that are getting lots of traffic every day, and we're missing that opportunity. I took my Yes for JCPS yard signs that I paid for and went to 2 different polling locations and put them around so that drive-by traffic would hopefully get some of that influence. But why is no one else doing this work? So the coalition, the idea of this coalition would be that we come together and figure out and organize and figure out how to have this presence and maybe hopefully work with the district team that's actually getting paid to do this work. And I feel like it's a win just getting them to add vote yes to their yard signs. They ordered 500 more yard signs today and they added vote yes to them. So they're going to give.
Wow. Who was that? I'm sorry, I missed it. Who?
The marketing firm for the district, the people that we've been trying to.
Oh, all right.
We tried to get a meeting with them through Chris Harmer, and instead of him arranging the meeting, he took the meeting and came back and reported why we couldn't do what we were wanting to do.
Oh gosh.
The things that I told you.
Okay.
About that he needs to answer for if he wants to continue to come on these calls. So, because we were told to wait because there was another organization forming that would give us a seat at the table, and none of us have a seat at the table now. So how did that work? It didn't.
I just want to put in a little plug. I promise to make it super fast, even though I'm a chatty Cathy, on the N, which is, I think that COVID has obviously changed some things for the worst, but some of the things it's going to improve. And I mean, not just because people see that we've been trying to put a Band-Aid on an open oozing wound, which, although we have, is I think that we are now building a safer school. I mean, I do not believe we're going back this calendar year as far as COVID. And as to building a safer school for Black and Brown students, the fact that these things that, I always joke with Gay, I'm on TV from 11 to 1:30. Oh, I gotta go on TV. Our classes are filmed. So nothing is now that's not what happened. There is evidence of everything. And two people can say the same thing, but one person can minimize it. Oh, yes. Jimmy said so-and-so, but he was joking. Well, I'm looking at the video. And first of all, you shouldn't joke like that. And second of all,
Yeah.
Jimmy wasn't joking. So, it's going to be a full year of people who are basically on stage all the time. And you can't go back later and say, hey, I didn't say, and I didn't do, or I actually said, or I actually did. Because it's all there in living color, even if it is a little bit grainy. So I think just from this is going to help make our schools safer.
That's true. That's a good point. Greg, you put stack in the comments?
I had a really good comment, and I think Yvonne that's what it was. So I understand the committee, what is the group that's been hired by JCPS to promote the tax hike?
So there's a couple. There's a consulting firm called Osborne and Associates that has been making the strategy decisions around they're the ones that said to wait, right? And they wouldn't return our calls. And recently, at Labor Day, they hired a communication firm out of their budget. There was $575,000 awarded to Osborne and Associates to do all of the work. And I don't know how much of that is being spent with this communications firm, but she told me on Wednesday that they were only hired around Labor Day. So they're really just getting started. And they're called C2 Communications, I believe. So I don't know if that answers your question, but she told me that they, but
Sorry, I probably asked that the backward way. I'm trying to find the message I got, but I understand that there's been some communication with Michelle Penix.
regarding what? I mean, we talked to her all the time.
With the NTI process. Have we been in touch with her?
I've talked to her about hubs and like I mentioned, the anti-racist budget piece. And we were talking to her about hosting a school board candidates forum, but nobody's schedules worked out. And now that I'm involved in this other work, I need to step away from it because that would be campaign coordination. I can't work with candidates anymore. So I don't know what you're asking NTI.
I had heard there was a response from one of our meetings with Dr. Polio and the Kentucky Alliance that in the form of a reach out to Michelle to see if they couldn't get her connected. I don't know where it stood, and that's where I was hoping somebody knew.
I don't know for sure. I think we need to keep advocating. I think we need to assume that it's not sufficient. Until we've been told it's sufficient, we need to assume it's not. Although she did also tell me that she was working on some things and was headed to a community hub not too long ago. So she's involved in some way, but I'm going to assume it's still not to the extent that, and it was disrespectful the way that they went about it and awarded it to these elite entities instead of to the grassroots people who bring them these ideas. And I don't know what the logic is, but maybe they're learning, maybe they're coming around. We'll see. But with whatever Matt Kaufman is doing, sounds like he's got a hub going, and I don't know how that's structured either. I don't know if he's still a JCPS teacher or not. Do you? Have you heard?
No, I don't know that answer.
I saw him on Wave FM, but all I know is what was on there for that hour. They actually don't have any kids yet and probably won't till January. Their idea is these hubs will outlast COVID. And there's and lots of project-based learning.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds great.
It does.
But it is not a hub right now. And that is run through the district. Their slogan is Louisville is our classroom and justice is our curriculum.
Oh, cool.
Wow. Yeah.
So I don't know where we are. Let's go around the room and ask where you stand on this tax increase. And I pulled up this slide that I had a scale on. 0 to 6. If you're yes, no matter what, you're a 6. If you're no way, you're a 0. The coalition was anywhere between 2 and 4. We were yes, but, or no, not until these things happen. And I'm still a yes as long as. I'm a 4. And you guys want to just tell me what you think in a minute or two.
Hi. Oh, not starting? Not
Yeah,
right
go
now?
ahead. No, I meant.
Okay.
A minute or two.
Okay, cool beans. So I am currently at a 4, so the yes as long as. I originally was at no, but I think judging from today, hearing about how we can hold them accountable, that definitely changed my standpoint. So my big concern was the fact that they didn't really specify, or they said the money was going to go one place, but there was no guarantee, and that kind of caused me to concern a little bit. But I think us holding them accountable will definitely at least make sure that we're going in that right direction. So I am currently at a 4, and I have a meeting at 5:30 that I need to get off for. But it was really great talking to you all today and listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will follow up with the email.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I was a 4, and this is going to sound crazy, but Justice 502 has kind of moved me up to a 5 because it's loud and proud saying that, you know, we're serious about justice for all. So, and there's going to be a lot of blowback because you know what some people are like. So I thought that was a bold and courageous move, and it kind of bumped me up one.
I am at a 1 right now. I'm not really sure at the moment. I would need like more information.
Your sound is a little muffled. Can you say the number again?
I'm at a 1 right now.
Can you hold up how many fingers? I'm sorry, I still can't understand you.
He asked if he could write it down, and that would be
Yes,
great.
one.
He's a 1.
Excellent. 1. All right. Greg texted in chat 4.5. Do you want, Jumana, do you want to explain? I'm sorry, it is hard to understand you, and I don't want to make you talk and have to repeat yourself too much. Maybe you could type in chat and let us know what your reason for 1 is. And while you're doing that, Kimberly. Hey, girl.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you feeling about all this?
I've been all over the place today. My husband's car is a mechanic came over, so I had to go outside for a little while. So I'm sorry, I've been all over the place.
Oh, that kind of all over, not necessarily all over the place with yeses and nos.
But yes, I'm still at a 4.
All right. Well, you know what? That's more yesy than I thought you were. So
Maybe a 3.5.
All right. All right. Ike, you said you're a yes, right?
Yes, and I would say I'm a 5. On the theory that the cost of this tax increase is less than $9 a month for the average house, which is like $150,000 a year, and the current superintendent, Dr. Polio, has made it clear, and I've learned during this conversation, has made some pretty concrete statements that he really intends to spend like 3/4 of the money toward equity, and so it's kind of like it's not going to hurt anything, and it's not very expensive for people, and it may do one heck of a lot of good. So I'm a 5.
So Jumana says, I am at a 1 right now because I really am not sure at the moment. I would need more information before making my decision, but as of right now, I'm not sure. I definitely feel like the middle class work harder for less take-home pay. This is absolutely true. K.A. Owens, who's not on the call today, but who has been around for a long, long time with the coalition work and the People's and the Kentucky Alliance, says it's not that we're overtaxed, it's that we're underpaid. And so his argument is we still need to support paying the taxes, but we need to support making sure everybody is getting the supports and the good jobs and the health care and the things that are sucking money out of our households. A base wage. Those are the types of things that we need to continue to push for and stop putting so much burden on our families. And what Liv said before she jumped off, I lost it. I had a response to her as well. I forgot what she had said, but I did want to respond to her too. But I think that my reason for being a yes is that a lot of our JCPS employees, our teachers, also live in our community, and they deserve raises. This money is earmarked also for teacher raises, and if we can bring in the tax increase, it's less money they're going to have to shift around, and as we all know, when they have to shift money around, it comes out of the pots that people aren't paying attention to, which means services to vulnerable students and low performing schools and all the things that we're trying to fight for. So just because we give them the money doesn't mean they're going to spend it properly, but punishing the children instead of the adults who are behaving poorly is not the right answer. We need to hold the adults accountable. And if Dr. Polio isn't going to do the work, if this is all talk, and then we don't see the action, then we replace the board and we replace the superintendent. And we've done that before, and we can do it again. let's hope, I'm not saying, I don't mean that to sound like a threat. Dr. Polio knows that grassroots is responsible for the work that's been done in replacing board members and in creating the opening that allowed for him to be selected for that job, and for stopping charters, and for stopping vouchers, and for stopping state takeovers, and for getting racial equity in our schools. These are things that we had to demand, the people had to demand. They're not going to volunteer these things to us. The business community is not out there lobbying for these things. Grassroots is quite capable, and that's been part of what we've been trying to communicate to this marketing firm all these months, is that they need to tap into the grassroots, because we have the ability to mobilize and build on these successes, not only the things that I just mentioned, but the Coalition for the People's Agenda, building on the successes of the giants of Ann Braden and Angela Davis and Bob Cunningham, and keeping the work moving forward instead of always starting from scratch or dividing up, the work. We need to come together and create that synergy. So it's been really pretty powerful, all the different voices that have participated in this process. And it started back in December. Latasha and I, actually it started even before that with PTA and PTO forming when PTA was shutting out Black parents and replacing Black parents with white teachers, and then manipulating site-based decision-making council elections, and some of the things that we caught them doing, that by doing the work that we were doing, it exposed the work that they were doing and caused them to shift in a better direction. The union is the same thing. We have to hold union leaders accountable or replace them. And so all of this is part of this work. And I would say, compared to where we started, I only know the last 8 years. Ike knows where we started, I guess, even further back from that, and Greg too. I know a lot of you have been in this work for a long, long time, but the progress that we have made to get to this moment has been pretty phenomenal. And this is a window that won't always be here. This window will close, and it's a perfect storm. It's not only the perfect storm because of Breonna Taylor and the movement for Black Lives and the personal connection that we have to the movement for Black Lives with Breonna Taylor, being a JCPS graduate. Like, I think we're so close to this, we don't even realize how significant it is. This is the Say Her Name movement. It's right here in our backyard. And then on top of that, perfect storm-wise, we've got a tax increase on the ballot. We've got Mitch McConnell on the ballot. We've got Trump on the ballot. People are going to show up because of these races. And if we can drive voters to the polls because they feel a glimmer of hope that maybe they would have stayed home otherwise, if we can demonstrate to our Black voters, the Black voters alone were a significant enough block to put Governor Beshear over the top. That contingent is enough to change the outcome of not only this tax increase, but Mitch and Trump at the state level. Well, Mitch at the national level, because we're the only ones that get to vote for Mitch, or against Mitch, I should say. But also the 8 electoral votes that Kentucky provides to the presidential race could flip if we had enough impassioned voters turning out to the polls between now and November 3rd. So all of this work really centers around that leverage, that tool. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing. And that's why the strategies maybe seem complicated. And why am I worried about this? And why? Well, because we're playing chess. And we may get our king all the way to the other side of the board. I don't know chess that well, actually. Yvonne may have to correct me. But we may get our man all the way to the other side of the board, but then don't have the next play worked out because we let the pieces move around. We have to have all of our chess pieces in the right spots. And I think we have done so. I know we're running out of time with only 2 weeks left, but 2 weeks really is a long time. We've done a lot in 2 other 10-day windows that when we had a 10-day break in Frankfurt 2 years ago, we organized a really pretty powerful 2-day rally. I don't know if you guys remember the significant turnout that we had those last 2 days of session in 2018. And then, and that's the day we stopped charters, the funding mechanism for charter schools. It was also when we got into a fight with Kentucky 120 because we wanted to stop the gang violence bill, and they didn't want to talk about it. That was when that division started. And then the Believe in Booker campaign we organized in about a 10-day window. And we didn't get Booker over the top. I think he did probably win, but with all the other technicalities, it didn't happen. But and then now I think we've got 2 weeks to drive. It's not changing people's votes from no to yes or yes to no. It's turning up when you might not otherwise have. What are we going to do to make that happen? That's this coalition's work for the next 14, 18 days, whatever I said it was. So did everybody who voted, everybody got a vote and explain their vote? I wanted to show you one other slide. This is around student assignment. This is the conversation. That's the flip the script conversation. Let me start with this one. And it's 5:50. So I'm gonna do this in about 3 minutes, and then if anybody wants to stick around until 6 and just talk or whatever, I don't want to make it so nobody else can say anything. I want everybody to make sure they feel heard. If you have concerns, I want you to feel heard. If you have questions, I want you to get answers or let me know so I can point you in the right direction. This is the current student assignment plan. The changes they made really just focus on rearranging this assignment here to make it better, but it still does nothing about the big picture student structurally racist piece of it, which is that we bus only out of the West End. We don't bus anyone into the West End other than those who choose to travel the other direction. So the next slide I had is this is inequitable. We're putting all of the burden on the families who are least able to do what is necessary instead of those of us who are most capable. And then this is what equal would look like if we said, okay, everybody in this neighborhood could go to a school close to their home and have the opportunity to apply around the district. It'd be one big solid color block, and they would go to Shawnee. That would be equal. But we're not even, we don't want equal, we want equitable. We want, and I just made this up as an example, it's not real, but we want just as many people, if not more, moving outside the West End in, so that we still get integrated schools, but the burden of diversity is shared, right? So, because this is already an option too. People are already being bused out of the West End. Let's share that and make sure we have just as many people being bused in, if not more. And make sure we have quality schools in the West End so that everyone has the same opportunities that we've had all these years. And I'm going to stop talking.
One thing I just
Go ahead,
Yvonne. I think that was Yvonne. Go ahead.
That was me. I was
Sorry.
our student to chime in, but go ahead, Ike.
I was just going to say something that I thought of when you said that. I had never thought of this, but just as an idea, busing people into the West End, while it would be very, very politically difficult to achieve, but if it happened, and the shift in resources and everything that would go with that happened, to the extent that it needs transforming, which is another question. But the West End itself, or West Louisville, really we should call it, West Louisville itself would be largely transformed.
Right. I mean, right.
And I had never thought of that argument to the way you phrased that, but I think it would happen. That's an ancillary, but sort of like an ancillary effect that may be more important than the original effect, even more important than the original effect.
Ivana, what grade are you in?
Sorry.
Are you the president of your BSU?
I we haven't had an election yet. Some students didn't show up first to elect, but I'm running.
You plan on running, but you haven't had an election yet, I think is what I heard you say. Do you live near your school, or are you bused? And I'm so sorry, I can't understand. You don't have an answer in the chat. You live near your school, okay, good. What did you think about, and again, if you don't mind answering in the chat, what did you think about the flip the script proposal I just shared?
Gary, who are you talking to?
Jamana, the student that's on our call, that's on our committee.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to get a student's perspective, especially since our students know firsthand the challenges that the current student assignment plan causes for their classmates. Oh, explain it to you again. So flipping the script, I don't know if you're familiar with how the current student assignment plan works. So that was this first slide. Basically, this is the high school map. If you live in the West End where those color blocks are all chopped up, then that shows you what school you're bused to. And so like if you're in that brown area, then you're bused to J-Town. If you're in a purple area, you're bused to Fairdale. And so everyone that is currently bused is only bused out of the West End to these other schools. There's no reverse flow of busing other than magnets or alternative schools. So it's structurally racist. It structurally puts all of the burden of diverse schools on our West End families. So my flip the script suggestion is that we start talking about turning that around, turning it on its head, and having just as many students be bused from outside the West End in. And ideally, you would do it in a way that was optional. You would want to create such dynamic schools, such attractive schools in the West End that people would be fighting over each other to go to them. And then you're not having to assign people to their schools. But if it comes down to it, I think that's a conversation we should be willing to have, because it sets up the next argument, which is, wait a minute, you're not willing to be bused across town, but we're okay with making our West End families do it, so like we need to get to those conversations that are a little bit uncomfortable, so that we can, actually a lot uncomfortable for some people, so that we can start to change the conversation and get to the point where it is equitable. And equity would be flipping the script. And I think, well, if you want to think about that and type your response in the chat, Yvonne, I think you had your hand raised. Well, it says, look up there in my little computer corner, it says hand raised. So I'm going to lower your hand.
I didn't mean to do it.
You're the teacher.
Well, part of it was that while poor Jamani was talking, my screen just went crazy. I think it's a Zoom unhappiness.
Yes. Well, I mean, we're all using the same bandwidth, and now we're sharing each other's bandwidth these days, so it's challenging. So Jemana says, I think it's a great idea. Most students who go to Southern are bused and live around 30 minutes away, and most of the time, if they miss the bus, their parents have to drive them, which sometimes they cannot make it. That is one of the concerns that we have heard. Same thing with if you're sick, or a PTA meeting, or a parent-teacher conference, or after-school activities. All of those things are challenges for our families. The families who are working 2 jobs, or who don't have stay-at-home parents, or who don't have transportation, all of these things increase the burden. So it's the opposite of what it should be. And so that's why I did this graphic here. It's inequitable. So like this chart with the students standing on the blocks looking over the fence, it's like giving extra blocks to the tall kid, and the short kid doesn't have any blocks. We're not even equal. We've reversed it. We've made it inequitable. That's inequity for you. It is an unfair opportunity for students and their education. That is correct. So what do you say we hold the district accountable to flipping the script? And I think this is the type of work that would be the continuation of the Coalition for the People's Agenda, Education Committee specific. So, all right. Anyone else? I see Greg has to hop off. It is 6 o'clock. I wanted to end the call at 6, so we will call another meeting, and I will send some stuff out through email. And I appreciate everybody for joining us today. And thank you for putting your trust in me by electing me your chair.
Thanks to everybody. So until next time.
All right. Thanks, Ike. Thanks for joining us, and I'll send you some links. Thank you, Kimberly, Jemana, and Yvonne.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.